Good morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios, where our water cooler has been replaced with the Coors Party Ball and 2 red Solo cups. Now here's your host, Dave Kearney.
So I'm going to charge you $5 for the Solo cup, but you get to have all the Busch lattes that you can consume. How does that sound? You
Busch
get $5.
lattes.
That's what we call it out here. It's the Busch latte, baby. $5 Solo cup. Come on in. Isn't that a country song? The Solo cup song? That is a country song.
It is of course. Yeah.
Well,
why wouldn't it be? It's about tractors, beers, and women you lost. That's what all country music's about.
No, that's not true. Country music is 3 chords and the truth, baby. 3 chords and the truth. And we know that to be true because Ray Charles said that to us once. And if Ray Charles said it, then we know that it is true. Hey, Neil.
Ray Charles, Rich, just real quick, I got to tell you this. And because of copyright, trademark, blah, 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 I can't play it. But Ray Charles at one time did a song with Clint Eastwood, believe it or not. It was for a movie, and it was called
Are you kidding me?
Beers to You. And they both sing. And Ray Charles, of course, he brings the noise. It's awesome. But then Clint Eastwood joins in, and it's absolutely horrible. If you get a chance, I highly recommend you go check that out somewhere. Beers to You, Ray Charles, Clint Eastwood. It's a real song.
All right. I'm all over it. Neil, why don't you do this? Let's make a sample of Beers to You, right? You put that into a hip-hop version and give us one of those sick raps that kind of goes right over that, okay? And we'll make that our man Neil Duda. Special case checking in. Guten Morgen to you too, my friend. Great to see you. If you're just joining us, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch Live, Twitter Live, and LinkedIn Live for our business professionals. Welcome to the Sports Carnival, as Chad mentioned, broadcasting live, baby, from the Trauma Center studios. Thanking our friends at Preferred Insurance, the official insurance provider of the Sports Carnival. The Midwest Mortgage Team, our good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercuse, and, of course, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, the official real estate partner of the program. Chad, we've also got a new friend, Joe, and Helping Hands Landscaping. You need snow removal, or as Jimmy the Haggerty of Stone Distribution fame told me the other day, if you need dog poop removal, Helping Hands Landscaping could be a good one for you to call in the La Crosse or Onalaska areas. Chad, we've got a lot to cover today here on the program. The Sports Carnival is going to be loaded. We've got a guest, John Denton, our sports betting insider. He's going to be joining us at about 8:30. We've got picks from John, and we'll be going over the reasons why John Denton has laid out these slate of games. We include some college and some NFL, 2 college plays, 2 NFL plays. We'll be talking to JD coming up this morning at 8:30. You can always follow JD on Twitter at Johnny Utah, JONNY_Utah, YUTAH. We've got a lot of NBA to talk about this morning, Chad. The NBA regular season just getting going. Tuesday night tipped off with 2 games. Last night, a fuller slate of games, and a surprise for me, and I think a lot of folks here in the area. The Washington Wizards did not play first-round top 10 pick Johnny Davis from the University of Wisconsin, from La Crosse Central High School, in their opener. And it really does raise some questions about where Johnny Davis is. So we'll talk about that and what Coach Wes Unseld Jr. had to say about the reason why Johnny Davis didn't suit up last night for the Wizards. The Milwaukee Bucks, Chad, they tip off their NBA season tonight. We have already talked about the fact that Chris Middleton and Pat Connaughton, 2 important players for this Bucks team, will be out for the first 3 weeks of the season at least. We think Middleton might be 2, maybe 3. Connaughton seems to be a hard 3. What will this mean for the Bucks as they tip off against the Sixers? I don't think it's going to do anything uber dramatic to start, but we'll get into the throes of that as, again, the Bucks season tips off tonight. We've got a Twitter poll question, Chad, and Morning Wood, if you're popping up, yes, you are. Morning Wood's popping up. Go to the Sports Carney, at the Sports Carney on Twitter, and everybody do the same thing. And take this morning's poll question. We're just a couple of days out now, Chad, from seeing what the Green Bay Packers can do to rebound against consecutive losses to the New York Giants and the New York Jets. They are in Washington to take on the Commanders, and the Commanders have a change at quarterback. Carson Wentz is a little banged up. Taylor Heineke, is going to be getting the start again. And we've seen Taylor Heineke be a gamer in the last couple of years for the Washington Commanders. So we'll talk about that. And the Twitter poll question goes to this. If the Packers do lose, Chad, the game against the Commanders on Sunday, what will it mean for the season? So jump aboard at the Sports Carney on Twitter. You can follow us everywhere at the Sports Carney. It's pretty easy.
I would call that a disaster. I would say that if they lose, it'll be a disaster. It'll be over with, and it'll all be about the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll just move on.
Okay.
And we'll just move on. We'll just be like, we're going to bury the season. I'm just thinking as a Packer fan. I'm not obviously a Packer fan. I'm a 49er fan, but I'm learning to become a Packer fan. And I've had to do this as a 49er fan. You just bury the season, you move on. It's just that simple.
See, the thing about Packer fans, though, is this, Chad, because winter's long, very long here, even longer than it is in Washington. I know technically the same 12-month schedule, but it gets really long. Packer fans love to redigest the pain. It's not just the good times, it's the bad times too. And Packer fans, I'm telling you, they get into it. It may seem a little twisted, may seem a little morose, maybe even a little masochistic, but Packer fans love to get into the throes of all of what's right or wrong with the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, I'm all over the map, as you know, on the teams I like. So I totally empathize with that, because I am also a Red Sox fan and been a Red Sox fan for quite a while. And before their success, that's what all Red Sox fans did, is they would just wallow in misery of, Buckner and things of that nature, So I totally understand where you're coming from. Real quick, I just wanted to mention this because we talked a little NBA. Neil Dudas talked about this Phoenix Suns comeback. And I went to bed thinking that, wow, the Mavericks were going to kick the Suns' ass. And somehow they came back and they won 107-105. Wow, that's quite impressive, because Luka looked like he had it on last night.
Well, he did, and he nearly won the game for Dallas on the final possession. Dallas didn't take a timeout after Phoenix had gone up by 2 points, and Luka takes it up, does what I thought was a fairly lazy maneuver, crossover, but takes a step back from about 35 feet. Not to say that he can't hit that shot, Chad.
Sure.
And Neil, I know that we've seen Luka Doncic. Neil's a huge Phoenix Suns fan, by the way. And we've seen Luka Doncic do some incredible things. You're right. It looked like he was going to do one of those really special closing acts again. But to Phoenix's credit, they were one of the best fourth quarter teams in the NBA last year. And they really played a great fourth quarter. Devin Booker said, when asked after the game what he felt that meant to the team, listen, we know that if we're down, we can still come back. I don't think, though, and this is something we can obviously touch on more and more as the 82-game season progresses on, I don't think the Phoenix Suns are really as good as they've been the last couple of years. Chris Paul just gets another year older and less durable. I think their bench is a little weaker, but we'll see. It was a great way to start the season. Hey, guys, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, broadcasting live here from the Trauma Center studios, the Sports Carnival going to be rolling on. I do want to talk some Johnny Davis NBA action. We'll talk some Green Bay Packers and some sports betting coming up, but I want to talk about Johnny Davis and Chad, what it might mean for the former lacrosse star to not be playing in his first NBA regular season game. Stay tuned.
I can't imagine a week going by without going to the Recovery Room Bar and Grill, 7th and Mississippi Street in downtown La Crosse. I'm serious. If you know me, you know that my favorite restaurant, not just my favorite bar, but my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, is none other than the Recovery Room Bar and Grill. Whether it's their burgers, their pizza, their wings, their gyros, their prime rib, or their fish, it's all good. And the wait staff, my gosh, some of the friendliest and coolest people that you'll ever meet. Matt, the owner, great friend of mine. The Recovery Room, 7th and Mississippi Street. I can't go a week without it. How about you?
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. Remember, when Dave says spread offense, it means something entirely different. Now here's your host, Dave Kearney.
Hey, baby. We're not here to tell any super secrets. Chad, speaking of super secrets, we are so lucky that yesterday I did not want to play that video that we were discussing, and a couple of us Badger fans were discussing about the Badger volleyball team. Do not share that with anybody. If you have that video, do not share that with any. I don't know what it is or where it is, but apparently there's been some there's been some dust ups. The police department on campus is searching for who illegally and unlawfully started to spread this very, I would say, perky piece of video.
Ooh. Perky. Okay. Well, so this is a lesson in trust your gut. We both trusted our gut yesterday. We knew that we probably shouldn't share it, and I think we made the right decision. Although it was very tempting, right? It was very, very tempting.
Oh, it was very tempting. But actually, I think when I actually would have thought about pressing play, my radio finger would have gone, I can't do it. Like that would have been like that would have been the impotence of my finger. I can't do it.
Flaccid finger. There's nothing worse than a flaccid finger. Yeah, I agree.
Jesus, no. That's what she said. According to that show I watched, The Office. Hey, Morning Wood, you do have a great point, and I'm glad that you put this up on screen. Yeah. The beautiful thing about being a Wisconsin sports fan, Woody says, is that when things are down, win or lose, we still booze.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Win or lose, we still booze. I love that. That has a ring to it. I think Neil Duda could put a beat to that, and possibly we could play that at some point. Win or lose, we still booze. I love it.
Neil, can you get to work? Hey, we're gonna have another music guy, musician, athlete / musician tomorrow. Bailey Kale on the program. So if Neil can't do it, maybe we throw this thing to Bailey Kale and see if he can do it. I see Breacher's checking in. He says, "How about a smash up of Jesus and the Hula Girl plastic dashboard figurines?"
Yeah, I don't think it'd be sacrilegious. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we can do that or not, but
we can, but we won't. But we could do it.
Yeah, you're right. What am I talking about?
This is Eric from La Crescent checking in this morning. Boomstick says, only one game, but the go bear or go home experiment looked good. Sure did. T-Wolves. Nice victory last night.
Yeah.
Nice victory.
Yeah, he had a big game, didn't he? That's it. And you know what was interesting, and I didn't see the end of it, but Utah was actually winning, and I was like, man, they dismantled their whole team, and I think they
blew the Nuggets out.
What the hell happened
last night? Listen, the Nuggets have Jamal Murray coming back after a full year off. Okay,
yeah.
he had just gotten back onto the court recently. Michael Porter Jr., who is as talented as anybody for his size, has never really played any substantial minutes. His back issue has been a thing since he was in college, where he played like a couple of games. Yes, Morningwood, I did say impotence. It's flaccid finger syndrome. Okay, flaccid finger syndrome, buddy. I said impotence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We live in a country full of phallic symbols. So when you can make an impotence,
everywhere,
like sort of a reference, it's definitely something you want to try to work in.
George Carlin talked about that. Why is everything shaped like cocks? He says all the bombs, everything is shaped like a cock.
Well, think about the Washington Monument. It's essentially just a large phallic symbol.
Obelisk,
a very large phallic symbol. Hey, Enrique is checking in this morning for the first time. Good morning to you. Buenos dias, mi amigo. Enrique is a great friend of mine, works over at Stone Distribution. Cool dude. Jeff Schneider. Hey, Jeff, are you going to be open today? I got to come by your office. I've got a present for you. Pelicans will be fun to watch this season. The Nets are trash. It's interesting that Jeff brings this up because last night I was going back and forth a little bit on text with Michael Garcia from the Midwest Mortgage Team, and we both had that takeaway, Chad. The Nets cannot guard. They just can't guard. Kyrie does not play defense. Kevin Durant does not play defense. Ben Simmons is not as good as we thought he was going to be coming out of LSU, really. I mean, he's talented, but there's something missing there with that guy. And the Pelicans straight up put it on him. Zion Williamson looked great, 25 points in his return. Brandon Ingram is really emerging as one of these guys. And Chad,
does that bother you? Does that bother you a little bit, being a Laker fan?
Listen, I thought about that because everybody knows that I have Bucks up here, right? And the Lakers are down here, but I still have an affection for the Lakers. I grew up with them. That won't ever change. I thought about that this morning. No, because you got a championship. And if you ask any team, was it worth it to trade these guys to get one guaranteed championship? Because the Lakers and the Celtics now have tied for 17 all-time championships. As a Laker fan, that is something that we desperately wanted to see. As a Celtic fan, nobody wanted to see that.
I didn't want to see that. Yeah.
But I think that in hindsight, is Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and all those picks way too much to give up for street clothes? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But they won the championship, and it makes sense. Hey, by the way, speaking of street clothes, Anthony Davis, because the Lakers are awful. We're going to talk to John Denton later this morning, make some football picks. I'm going to throw this at John, though. Fade the Lakers all season. Whenever you see a spread, Lakers take the opposing team and feel good about it. The Lakers have two of the worst shooters, effective field goal percentage, over the last 5 years. Do you know who the worst shooter in the NBA last 5 years on jump shots was?
The worst shooter in the NBA in the last 5 years. Westbrook.
No, Anthony Davis.
Really?
Anthony Davis is the worst effective field goal shooter as a jump shooter in the NBA last 5 years. Now, Russell Westbrook does come in at number 5 worst shooter in the last 5 years, effective field goal range. Giannis Antetokounmpo's in there too, because he's just now developing into what I would consider a more reliable jump shot game. But the point is this, the Lakers are awful. And if you ask me again today, would I trade Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, and picks for Anthony Davis? No. But at the time, it gave you a championship, and you have to consider it. You have to consider it. If you're a Laker executive, it was worth it, I guess.
See, so there's pain to go around, Packer fans. It's not just Packer fans. It's Laker fans. There's a lot. There's 49er fans. I mean, we got all kinds of fans out there that are disappointed. And ultimately, at the end of every season, there's more disappointed people than there is happy people. Let's be honest. It's the way it works.
That's always what it is. You told that to John when he was 8 years old, and he didn't want to hear that shit, but you told him anyways. Sports is about pain, and I want you to know, get used to it, because that's what's going to happen. Hey, Joey Miller, before we go into Johnny Davis talk, Joey Miller throws this up here. He's joining us on YouTube. Thanks, Joey. Who's quarterback one for tonight for the Saints? Good question. Dennis Allen hasn't said. They're going to make it a game time decision. If I were betting right now, I would say Andy Dalton, because Jameis Winston is quote unquote back, but I don't know that he's had a real great week of practice. And let's be fair, Andy Dalton versus Jameis Winston, Chad, I'm not sure that there's a ton of difference. I think Dalton I would probably roll with, because he's a more accurate passer. And say what you will, his career hasn't matured like a Tom Brady career, but he did have a good start. They went to 4 consecutive playoffs when Marvin Lewis was still the coach of the Bengals. Andy Dalton's not terrible. He's just limited.
Well, yeah, I think he's probably a better pocket passer, maybe. Obviously, Winston a little bit more mobile. But, I think right now that's what I would probably go with, would be Dalton. And I think that's probably what we're going to see tonight.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably see that tonight, Joey. But again, Dennis Allen making this a game time decision, which is kind of cool. I don't understand why NFL coaches have to tell you what they're going to be doing on offense all the time. Like, yep, that's our guy. He's our starter. Yeah, let's just go ahead and
make that other team prepare for 2 quarterbacks. That drives the defensive coordinators crazy a little bit. So I agree with you. I would hold that close to the vest. You absolutely have to give it out. Yeah,
me too. Now, if you've got Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that, the question is it really going to be a question? And if it is, then you know that there's probably an issue. Major League Baseball last night, Chad. Padres, the Dads, got a victory over the Phillies. That was a fun game, 8-5. The Astros spanked the Yankees. They struck the Yankees out, I think, 17 times last night.
I am a huge fan of any team that plays the Yankees. So even though
plays them or beats them,
both. So I'll be cheering for whoever's playing the Yankees, and then obviously when they win, I will really be cheering them. And I don't even care if they're cheaters. That's fine. I like Dusty Baker, so I will give them a pass. It was the cheaters versus the Empire, and the cheaters won. I'm fine with that.
But you understand that the Yankees did the exact same thing that the Astros did, right? That was what Bobby Manfred tried to cover up, which we all found out. Like, everybody was stealing signs.
Well, I know, but the Houston got caught.
Yeah, they did.
So there you go.
There you go. All right. Well, let's talk Johnny Davis here, Chad. Houston, the cheaters, Johnny, the rookie for the Wizards, and a kid here from lacrosse that we've just been desperate to see take the court in an NBA game. I've got a picture up here. If you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Twitch, you'll see it. If you're listening to us later on our expanding podcast network, we'll go ahead and paint the picture for you. Johnny, the picture that I've got in this graphic is of one of his games during Summer League play, Chad, in Las Vegas. Summer League in Las Vegas was not kind to Johnny Davis. He didn't look good at all. Didn't shoot the ball well, turned the ball over a ton, but he's a rookie. And you've got to give a rookie some kind of pass, especially in the Summer League when you're first getting yourself acclimated to the league and what these different players are going to be like and how the game is different, vastly different than a college basketball game. However, not seeing Johnny in the first game last night for the Washington Wizards does bring up some questions about how far along in development Johnny Davis is, at least to his coach, Wes Unseld Jr., who was asked what role will be Johnny's this early season. And the coach said at practice to be the very best version of Johnny, and he's not there yet. It's always hard to push any alarm bells on a single game because that's just way too hyperbolic. Would you start to be concerned that Johnny maybe isn't making the next steps, or at least the steps that he would need to make to get any sort of significant court time, considering that he is a top 10 pick? Would you be concerned if we're 5 or 6 games into the season, Chad, and Johnny's not seeing court time? Because last night for the Wizards, he was a DNP, coach's decision.
I was just going to say, when you see DNP, coach's decision, that is not a good sign. That means obviously either, they didn't feel they needed him, or he isn't ready, or both. And it sounds like it was probably both. So yeah, I would say if we're 5, 6, 7 games in and you keep seeing that DNP, coach's decision, at some point, is he going to get cut? Is he going to get traded? I mean, I don't know his contract situation. Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Well, he's a rookie, so he's on, and he's a top 10 pick. So he's got those guaranteed contracts for the first 4 years. Not that you can't be traded, of course. Sure. I don't think Washington would be in the market to do that, because there is something, and we've seen this more and more and more since Kevin Garnett came into the league. There is something about today's NBA rookie. You and I were waxing about this, I don't know, many years ago. The players that we would see in college when we were in our youth or adolescence, the 80s, the early 90s, they were grown-ups. We're talking about 21, 22-year-old men that have spent 4 or 5 years sometimes in a college program playing against other guys who have spent 4 or 5 years, or at least 3, in a college program. And you have a better, I think, gauge of what a player is going to be when he comes into the NBA when you've got that kind of maturation already and development already there. Now they're taking players since Kevin Garnett really younger and younger and younger. And how many times have we seen guys miserably flame out because they just weren't ready? At the same token, you watch guys like Markelle Fultz was the number 1 overall pick for the Philadelphia 76ers. It looked like he was going to be a massive bust. It took him years to be able to become an effective player. Andrew Wiggins, you mentioned him a couple of days back, Golden State Warrior, NBA champion, all-star now. He didn't look like he was going to be on track for that kind of success. So in some respects, I think we get a little too quick to pull the plug on these rookies. However, a DNP coach's decision, when you're talking about a top 10 pick in the NBA, where Paolo Banchero, by the way, last night for the Orlando Magic, looks like he is the best rookie by far. He had 27 points for the Magic in that loss against Detroit. But when you're a DNP coach's decision as a rookie, a top 10 pick, there is something to consider there. And I think that when you look at what Wes Unseld Jr. was saying about Johnny needing to be the best version of Johnny, and he's not there yet, that means there's still some work to do.
Well, and as an audience, obviously you guys there are a little bit hyped up about it, and you want to see him play, and that's all understandable. This is probably not quite as big a deal within the organization. It's probably not something, maybe obviously with Johnny it is, but they have a plan for him, I'm sure. And as you said, sometimes it's better to sit and watch and kind of get acclimated to the league and to the team and all of those things. Look at Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre for a couple of years. I think that did him a world of good. Who knows where he would be now if that wasn't the case? And maybe that's something similar, obviously, with a guy like Johnny. It's way too early to really say, but you guys there obviously are itching for it. And it sounds like there's billboards up now with him on it.
Well, the Taco Bell on West Avenue does have a sign, Johnny, the league's not ready for you. And I'm kind of wondering if that's because he's not playing yet. Right?
They didn't think that through when they put that up there.
No, the league's not ready for you. I think he's going to be just fine. I really do. I like him as a player. I thought he was the best Wisconsin Badger basketball player that I've seen as far as natural athlete since Michael Finley. Michael Finley was the best Wisconsin Badger of all time. The guy was an incredible college player, an incredible pro. Michael Finley and Johnny Davis had some similarities. I think Michael Finley's top-end athleticism was better than Johnny's. Michael Finley could jump out of the gym, right? But Johnny's got a good head on his shoulders, comes from a really good family. Johnny's father, Mark Davis, Chad, I don't think you probably knew this. He played in the CBA. Played for the lacrosse Catbirds. So he comes from a really good basketball family. He comes from a really good background. I've met the kid a couple of times. He's really a nice guy. I mean, a nice guy. This thing will work out for him. It's just going to be, I think, an interesting sort of a watch for us here in lacrosse, especially, and the state of Wisconsin, because anytime you have a homegrown Wisconsin kid that goes to Wisconsin that then goes into the NBA, you tend to focus on him. But I think that he should be just fine. I am going to be curious, though, if in 5 or 6 games he's not playing, what this ultimately means, because perhaps he's just a lot further behind in his development for what that's worth than maybe any of us really anticipated.
Well, speaking of NBA pedigree, Wes Unseld Jr., obviously his dad was with the Bullets and won a championship back in 1978 and was probably the best, I would say probably the best Bullet of all time, or Wizard, if you will. I apologize. I don't want to offend anybody out there that
You've got Elvin Hayes. There were some good
saying, but he's up there.
He's definitely up there. Listen, Wes Unseld, for those that don't know, and if you're a younger person, Joey Miller, we've got Thomas from UWL, or if you're Jason Breacher and you just don't remember this stuff, Wes Unseld was great. I mean, he could handle the rock. He could rebound. He was big. He was just such a good player. He really was. And he was the Wizard/Bullets executive, I want to say, for most of the rest of his natural life, because Wes Unseld Sr. passed away, I want to say a year or so ago. Look, we'll keep tracking Johnny Davis, of course. We were very excited last night, like I mentioned, Chad. Mike Garcia from Landhome Financial, the Midwest Mortgage team, and I were going back and forth and just scratching our heads. And at first I asked him, is he injured? Are we seeing anything about the injury? No. By the time the game was concluded and you look into the box score, it's a DNP coach's decision.
Well, speaking of local athletes doing well, Marjan Beauchamp, I think you say his name is Marjan. I think that's how you say his first name.
Yes, plays for the Bucks.
Yeah, plays for the Bucks. I read an article yesterday about the Greek Freak and how he's got his Mamba mentality, which both of you and I agree with that, which is scary when you put that in that frame with that skill set. And obviously that's paid dividends. But Beauchamp was mentioned in that article, and he's actually a Yakima kid where I'm from. So that was huge news around here, the fact that he went to the NBA, and I hope to see him playing, against the 76ers tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know what the rotation is going to be like, but without Middleton, without Pat Connaughton, I think there could be a realistic shot for him to get on the court and maybe see some minutes. I'm excited for tonight's game. The Bucks tipping off against the Sixers is going to be a fun one to watch. I know that Joel Embiid's a great player. I know that James Harden, when he's not in a strip club or eating, can shoot basketball. Like, I know these things, right? Like, these are things that we know. But
man,
I'm just saying, when he's not in a strip club or eating,
he's lost weight.
Yeah, he's lost weight.
He may still be hanging out at a strip club, but he's not eating the all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet while he's there. So that's good.
That's probably why they wanted to move him out of Houston, because those places are just great. You got barbecue, you got like a pancake bar, and then you've got the strippers. Yeah, you can't even compare.
Michael Garcia bringing up the Yakima Sun Kings. Yes. At one time CBA champions. I think multiple times CBA champions, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so.
The Sun Dome. Yes, the Sun Dome sounds more impressive than it is.
Is it still there?
Oh yeah, it's still there. Sure. Yeah.
So
I think we have some kind of basketball team, but it's not part of anything significant. I don't remember what league it is. It's like 3 letters that don't make sense. I don't remember what it is, to be honest.
It's the EBL. And you're like, wait, that's where the kids play their 10 and 11-year-old basketball. Never mind. Hey, quick note on the Yakima Sun Kings lacrosse Catbirds. When I was 13, Chad, the first league that I ever reached out to and engaged with as a young person, because I was so enthralled with the business of sports, even at that time, the first league that I reached out to was the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association. And somewhere in my archives, I've got the letter they sent back to me, because I asked them what the salaries were like for players and how they went about drafting the players, assignment of these guys, because once you didn't get drafted in the first or second round, the CBA had its own separate draft, and guys that ended up being NBA players, Elliot Perry, Stacey Poole, a couple of different guys, started their careers in the CBA. I was fascinated by it.
It wasn't Isaiah Thomas at one time the commissioner of the CBA.
That's when it all ended. Thanks, Isaiah.
Torched the whole thing down. Did he not? It was not good.
It wasn't. I don't remember him trying to torch it, but it was like mismanagement, money mismanagement. I think he put his mom in charge or something, or what. There was something weird about that. And they've tried to revitalize that league a couple of times. At this point, it's completely useless, because the NBA's G League, and now what they're doing with this G League Ignite, where 5 of the top 6 players in every year's draft are going to be coming from soon. They've basically squashed that. And that's why it's hard. If you're not a team affiliated with a major program. And look at what baseball did, Major League Baseball, and cutting out minor league baseball across the board. If you're not a team affiliated with a major program where you can get salaries compensated by another entity, you can't make any money. It's just not a sustainable business because these little teams do not own the arenas or the stadiums. They don't own the liquor rights. They don't own the parking. So it's just, you can't make money unless you're funded by a big team. You just can't. That's why the CBA will never come back and the G League will be exactly what it is.
Jeremy Foreman dropping a nice old name here. Best CBA player of all time, Percy Miller. Wow. Foreman. Foreman just pulling it out of his ass. I love it. That's beautiful.
I kind of think that I would go Elliot Perry out of Memphis. Elliot Perry, left-handed guard out of Memphis, played in the CBA, then went on to play a number of years in the NBA, most notably, Chad, with that 1993 Phoenix Suns team that went to the NBA Finals against Michael Jordan's Bulls and lost in 6 games.
Ah, look at that. I love it.
Me too. Hey, speaking of stuff I love, making money, gambling, talking to our buddy John Denton, Johnny Utah. We'll be talking to Johnny coming up in just a minute. I got to send him a link here, Chad. I better do that. So stay tuned. We're on the Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios.
The official lending team and mortgage partner of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest Mortgage Team of Land Home Financial. You know I like to tell a joke or two and play around, have fun. But getting a mortgage is no funny business. Don't play around with your finances. Call my good friends Michael Garcia and Todd Vercuse of the Midwest Mortgage Team at Land Home Financial today. Whether you're buying your first house, maybe you're buying your second house, maybe you're a seasoned real estate investor. Midwest Mortgage Team, Land Home Financial, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercuse. Give my good friends a call today. They're the official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Hi, I'm Irene, and I care about you. That's why I started Care Packages by Irene, or CPBI. At CPBI, we have a wide range of care packages, from I care about you but don't get too clingy, to I'm completely obsessed with you and you should probably get a restraining order, and everything in between. Because it's CPBI, if you care, we care.
Visit us online at carepackagesbyirene.org.
Now back to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios. Remember, it's only a gambling problem if you lose. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Yeah, isn't that the way we always feel, right? It's only a gambling problem if you lose. And I tell you, for those that have gambling problems, it can be a serious one. Here's what I would do. Send all of your gambling money, all the money that you've been thinking about spending on gambling, and just send it to me. Just send it to me, send it to Chad, send it to John Denton, who is going to be joining us here soon. He doesn't have Twitter on his personal computer. He's got it on his phone, and we sent him the link through Twitter. So he's figuring this out. Give us just a moment. We'll bring John Denton on the program. If you are just joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, or Twitter, welcome to the Sports Carnival. You're more than welcome. And actually, I encourage you to interact with the program at any time on any of these platforms. I think YouTube, especially YouTube and Twitch, Facebook as well, are the ones that we get to see the most. Twitter doesn't come through for us, Chad. So if you are commenting on Twitter, we don't actually get to see that in real time, but we will see that a couple of hours later, I'm sure. That's kind of how it refreshes. Speaking of Twitter, before we bring on JD, who's working out his way to come onto the program, let me take a look over here at our Twitter poll this morning, and we've got this up at The Sports Carney, If the Green Bay Packers, if they lose this upcoming Sunday to the Washington Commanders, it will mean what? What will it mean? Now, Chad, the ways that you can answer this particular poll question: season is doomed, alarming, but still hope, or nothing to see here. What's your vote on this one?
Alarming. I would say alarming. I would say either alarming or I would say, as I can't remember who said this, lots of booze. I would say one of those two would be the two that I would go with. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're going to win. I mean, I'm not just trying to sound like a homer. I think they're going to win. How could they lose this game? There's no way they can lose this game.
Okay, I thought the same thing about the New York Jets. I thought the same thing about the New York Giants. I thought the same thing about the New England Patriots. This Green Bay Packer team right now is reeling a bit, and I just don't know if we can count anything as a lock, especially on the road. Listen, Washington's not the toughest environment to play, and I get it, FedEx Field or whatever it's called, probably going to see some empty seats, even though when the Packers are there, you're going to get a full house. Packer fans travel pretty well. I would be very concerned if I'm a Green Bay Packer player. As a fan, I'd be uber concerned if the Packers lose to the Washington Commanders. I don't think the season's necessarily doomed and over, but I say alarming. Still hope, but alarming. All right,
there's always hope. There's
always hope. All right, let's bring John Denton on the program here this morning, Chadwick. I see John is joining the program, and maybe John is like joining us only in audio fashion. I don't know. Let's see. John, are you with us here? There we go. Let's get
your fingers over the camera, John.
I think the finger is over the camera.
There it is.
Is your mic muted?
Oh, your mic is muted. That's the problem. There it is.
Man, we are having some technical difficulties today.
No, that's what makes it fun, John. It's totally fine.
We're in a Zoom world, right? Just living in it, man.
Listen, I have unfortunate internet connection. I'm going through like all sorts of ringers right now, JD, because this company that provides my internet that charges me an arm and a fucking leg is throttling me or trying to just cuck me for no specific reason. So yesterday we're doing this show, and the whole time I'm like this. Because I said one thing and I never moved again. Now, thankfully, I've got some real high-speed fiber optic dedicated internet coming because I can't do this show with this kind of internet. I'm not going to, tattle on a Mediacom, but what a bunch of fucks. And they don't answer phones. It's such bad service.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. Well, John, listen, we've been really excited to talk to you this morning. And obviously, you've been known for the folks that listen to my program here in La Crosse as our sports betting insider. You played your college football at UNLV, spent some time in the pro levels. You've been hitting the fucking ball out of the park this year so far with your bets. And I'm going to bring up a slide, Chad, while we've got John on, or have you bring up a slide while we've got John on to kind of go over the games that John sent me last night. John, I know that you've got a couple of other ones that we can touch on too. But when we get this up here, I want you to talk to us about the four games that we see in front of us. You've got a couple of college plays, and you've got a couple of NFL plays. UCLA +6, Texas -6, the Los Angeles Chargers coming up this weekend -6, and the New York Football Giants a +3 bet here. Let's start off with UCLA +6. Why'd you pick this game?
Yeah, listen, I think this is one that's being talked about a lot just on the networks and these channels that I'm on, and they're going into Oregon. They're getting 6 points. Tough place to play, obviously, in Eugene. But I think when you look at some of the breakdown of these two teams, they're both very efficient offensively. I think they're both in the top 20 in total offense. But when you look at the defense, the edge comes down to UCLA. I think they're 44th in total defense. Oregon's just over 80th. And I think when you look at Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the dual threat quarterback, being a fifth-year senior, and Zach Charbonneau played in the Big Ten, Michigan transfer. I don't think those guys are fazed by going into a big environment like this. And when you look at that environment, what it's produced the last 10 games for Oregon, they're 5-5 against the spread. UCLA last 10 away games, 7-3 against the spread. I like Oregon +6. The only question that I found in trying to dissect this UCLA team was their strength of schedule. They played a cupcakes strength of schedule so far. But what I did is I looked into those games, and they're holding those opponents to over 100, sometimes even 150 yards less than what they're usually averaging. So they're putting the beat down on these guys when they play them. I think UCLA is the real deal. They got a chance to continue on an undefeated season and potentially sneak into that playoff talk. So I like UCLA +6.
And that makes a lot of sense when you talk about the super seniors, especially these quarterbacks that have played in big time environments, Big Ten environments, big time games. That can have so much so much to do with the outcome. The quarterback's such an important position. And John, I want to use that as a transition that we'll hold on to for a little bit later when we talk Packers and what Taylor Heineke starting for the Washington Commanders could do. Let's go to Texas -6 now. Texas is an interesting team. And this is one of these teams where I believe, isn't Arch Manning going to Texas next year?
Yeah, he committed to Texas. They have the I think the previous year's player of the year is a quarterback now, the kid that transferred out of Ohio State.
Right? Yeah, Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, he was banged up a little bit at the beginning of the year. I think he's gotten a couple starts under his belt, but this lined open at Texas 2.5. It's already up to 6. It might even be 6.5 right now. So I played it last night at 6. I just think Texas is the more dominant team here. And when you look at what they did against Alabama, and you look at what they did against some of the other opponents, they did have 2 losses. But again, I think those were situational losses that most teams would have succumbed to. So when you look at the Iowa State game, the last game for Texas, there was a look-ahead game to OSU coming up the week after, right? I think they just got done partying. Someone said a lot of booze when I was getting on. They probably were talking about the Texas team partying 49-0 over that OU shellacking, right? So I think there was a situational play last week where they just did enough to get through that Iowa State game, and I think this line's a little low myself. But when I looked at it, what really triggered me to play Texas was Texas doesn't have a bye week Texas has a bye week next week, so there is no look ahead game. So they're going to go forth. I'm sure they were practicing hard, but Oklahoma State's got some injury issues. Their starting center and their backup center both went out the last game. As you know, centers making the calls against defenses, usually shifting the lines and stuff of that nature. But the biggest thing was quarterback Caleb Sanders. I think he missed the entire week of practice the week before, came out, played against TCU, banged up, 16 of 36, very, very low efficiency. So I think Texas gets after these guys this week. -6, I like Texas.
Well, there we go. I was like, wait, okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And I can totally see why. I've had a hard time believing in Texas over the last few years just because they've had such up and down seasons. And I don't know, partly because I don't watch enough of that conference play. I feel sometimes that I don't have the right kind of perspective on exactly what it is that they can do. But I think that if you're betting it, and again, folks, John's been nailing this one all season long, college football especially, just nailing it. If you're going to make a bet, look at making this one. If you can get it before it slips too far, how far would you play Texas? At what number would you start to lay off of this game?
I would keep it under 7. I would definitely not go over 7.5. If you can get 7, that would probably be my peak. And I just think Mike Gundy said it against TCU. They averaged 5.5 yards a carry against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State couldn't run the ball very well versus that stout D. I think Texas has a similar stout D. And Bijan Robinson, the running back, didn't get in the end zone last week, and he was fairly adamant about being upset in the weekly papers out there about not getting in the end zone. So I think they're going to run the ball down their throat this week.
All right. Well, that'll be a good one to play if you can get it below 7. And this, again, is John Denton, our sports betting insider, Twitter at Johnny_Utah. All right, JD, let's flip over to the NFL. And we're going to start with your favorite team, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers, led by Justin Herbert, one of the toughest quarterbacks in the NFL right now, who is still playing with an injured rib, right? It's rib cartilage, John. Before we talk about this exact game, let me ask if you've ever had that injury that he has right now, that rib cartilage injury. If so, how difficult is it to throw a football?
I have. My freshman year, I had a slight little rib tweak. I don't know how his is. I was able to play a little bit, and kind of the thing that hurt me was the breathing part of it, right? Because I was a running quarterback, so I would take off, and after that, it was that huffing and puffing that was painful for me. It wasn't really the throwing motion. I think his is more in the throwing motion, so might be a different rib that he hurt, out of the ones that we have. But tough cookie, man. I love me some Justin Herbert, that's for sure.
Yeah, he wasn't going downfield a lot last week. You could tell it definitely is bothering him to me.
Yeah, no doubt. His I think it happens to be on the left side where when you really tweak that throwing motion and that follow through, and I think if it was on the right side, it probably would be getting elongated a little bit from that throwing motion. But yeah, he's definitely tweaking it every time he throws it.
Well, and with being tough comes obvious respect from your teammates. It doesn't necessarily always mean that you're going to be able to tough through and be better than your opponent, however. And in this case, I'm curious why you came up with the Chargers -6 as one of these plays. And the reason I say that is because the injury to Herbert, a little injury, Bosa, I'm still unsure about. And the Seattle Seahawks are a team, John, that I'm just flabbergasted by this year at 3-3. I had no preconceived notions that Seattle would be possibly over 500 after 7 weeks. That's where I'm a little bit concerned about this game. So why do you feel so strongly about the Chargers minus these points?
I mean, just thinking about what you said there, I mean, we're celebrating a 3-3 team. Like, wow, these guys are
Right?
just killing it this year, right? Well, that's the reason why I'm looking at the Chargers here. And I tell you, it's not because I tell you, I don't like betting on UNLV and I don't like betting on the Chargers. That's just my thing. But when I see this situation come up, this line at the beginning of the year was a little bit higher than 6. I think it's just the recency bias. You're getting people that love the Seahawks, and the Chargers are not playing up to snuff, and the defense has got some issues. But I'll tell you, there was a stat that I ran across that made me pull the trigger. And the Eagles fit this situation on Sunday night as well. When I looked at it, I played the Eagles -6 against Dallas. If you're a home favorite with a bye on deck, right? So the Eagles have a bye this week. The Chargers have a bye next week. You're looking at 58-30 against the spread, which is 67% over the last 88 games. So I like the Chargers with a bye on deck to get right, to come out here and put a whooping on these Seahawks this week.
All right, let's look at this Giants game. The New York Giants, another one of these really surprising teams on the road versus Jacksonville. And Jacksonville 2-4 right now. Doug Peterson trying to do a better job. Right, Trevor Lawrence is coming along. They've got weapons. But New York in this spot +3. I love this. The Giants are winning close games. Daniel Jones has already had 4 game-winning drives this year. Saquon Barkley looks to be back. Wink Martindale is the real deal for these guys, at least as far as the defensive coordinator is concerned. This feels like a rock-solid play, man. I love this one.
Yeah, and again, this will be probably a money line sprinkle for me as well on the Giants. Probably put a little money line parlay with the UCLA and the New York Giants on this one. And again, it really comes down to, you guys are fully aware of what these Giants have done recently. They beat the Ravens last week. They're 5-1 against the spread. They're 5-1 straight up, so they got a great record. But I think Daboll it's got them focused. They're a young team, so most of those guys are used to winning. When you think, this isn't about stats or trends just yet, but when you think about winning, right, those guys usually are coming from programs like Penn State and Auburn that are winning, right? And they get a taste of losing, and then they get a taste of winning again. I think that's contagious. And you hear when you look at the reports and you look at the media and what these players are saying, you can read in between the lines, and it's contagious. But Jacksonville being 0-3 against the spread and 0-3 straight up the last 2 games, they just lost to Indy, I think is 1 or 2 point underdogs, right? I think the deciding factor for me was Wink Martindale, what he did last week in the final 10, 15 minutes against Baltimore. He's going to be able to get something done on the defensive side against Trevor Lawrence. So I like 3 points. Give me that on the road. I don't know. I think the coaching advantage might go to Jacksonville a little bit, but I definitely think the defensive advantage goes to the Giants this week for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Jacksonville's ready yet. I know that Trevor Lawrence is on the come, right? I really do. Travis Etienne, guy that he played with at college, was really good too. Anthony Russo, Preferred Insurance. Before we let you out of here, Johnny, because we're kind of running up against it, but Tony wants to know who we like tonight. Arizona. Oh God, this is going to be a horrible game. And New Orleans. The spread's Arizona -2.5. John, what are your thoughts?
So I played this last night just off of wanting to have something in the game, but I played the Saints money line and the over. So I got a little 2-team parlay.
All right. Hey, dude, I really appreciate you. Again, follow our man John Denton on Twitter at Johnny_Utah, YUTAH. Johnny Utah, appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks,
for
John.
having me, boys. Take care.
All right, Jim.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Now back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. As Will Rogers once said, everything is funny as long as it's happening to someone else.
Yes.
Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Yes.
We've had a couple funny things happen to us today. I apologize. I've had a couple glitches. I've miscued a couple things. I will talk to myself later after the show and make sure and scold myself. So I apologize.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up too bad. I did more of that for both of us yesterday than probably anybody needed to do. So I don't know why, but I was just beating myself up all day yesterday. I know why, because I completely overshot an alarm.
It happens.
It does. And by the way, we had a great show. Yesterday was a great show. Today's been awesome too. And I thank everybody for reaching out, checking in with us. Special K did throw me a lifeline with
Starlink.
respect to my internet. He's like, Starlink, Dave. So I'm going to go with a local provider first because I've already contracted them to come out here and I've paid for it. Okay, so that's coming out, and it's a fiber optic connection, which should give me like blazing internet connection. But I'll tell you, I'm willing to try anything. So Special K, I really appreciate that.
That's Elon Musk. So you have to call Elon Musk, I think, for Starlink. Do you not?
Well, I don't know if you call him directly or maybe you do. Maybe you do. He looks like a guy that probably needs a friend, to be fair.
He looks like a guy, if he didn't have all that money, he would show up in a van with no windows. You know, one of those guys. He drives a van around in the neighborhood.
Yeah, a little bit.
God knows what's going on in the back. That's what he kind of reminds me of a little bit.
You really got to be careful when he's like coming in an ice cream truck. This fucking guy again, huh? Like, all right, everybody, get in the house.
Yeah, I want a drumstick. If he comes by, I want one of those drumsticks. I'm a big fan.
Those are great.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't go without saying this because Foreman, P12 Foreman brought this up, and this is another internet sort of a quip here. P12 Foreman says they're going to charge you more because all your internet use is the Amish horses. Run more to keep your speed up, which in turn causes them to eat more. The funny thing about this is, Chad, out here, there are Amish buggies that come up and down my street daily.
That's awesome.
Daily. Yeah, at the Legion, down the street, the Stoddard Legion, they even have a no horse parking sign that's up. I mean, literally,
wow,
and specifically, no horse parking. Why? Because they drop massive shits.
That makes sense. Do you get your butter from the Amish? Because they make good butter, do they not?
Yeah, I don't know. No? I don't know. I would never eat it. I would never put that stuff in my mouth. I don't know that they wash their hands. Those people freak me out, man. I'm serious. Like
salt of the earth, baby.
I don't know about that. They wouldn't let Pocahontas live here, but apparently they get to camp. Like, that's all I'm saying. I don't know what those people are about. And it just, listen, I wave and everything and go about my business. Listen, if they wanted to make cabinets for me or something, maybe.
I know you don't like fat people, but I didn't know you didn't like Amish people. Well, you're living in the wrong part of the world to not like fat people or Amish people.
Listen, and they'll never hear this because they can't. And if they can, they've fallen in with the English, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Unless this is Ramstagen or something. But
this could hurt our share of Amish, our ratings for the Amish. That we're not getting a big share of the Amish audience right now.
Well, if Jeremy Foreman's onto anything about them fucking up my internet, then I don't care because that's what they get. If that's what you're doing, slowing down my internet, then that's what you get.
Oh, man.
All right. So we got a lot covered today here. But Chad, one thing we haven't really spent too much time talking about is tonight's opening game, Bucks versus the Sixers. So I'm trying to see. I don't know what the line is on this one right now. I didn't pull this up. I'm going to take a look at this now. I've got the Bucks all season long. Basically, they're a great team. Last year, they didn't cover as well as they should have. They're on the road tonight, 6:30 TNT. Let me see if they're going to give us a spread here because I'd like to see what this looks like.
I would say that I'm leaning towards the Bucks winning, but without Middleton and Connaughton, as you said, that is a little concerning. And the Sixers are coming off an opening loss.
Yeah.
And they didn't look horrible. Let's be honest. I think James Harden put up 35 points.
He did.
And Joel Embiid, I think, had 27
and 15 rebounds.
And 15 rebounds. And that's always a great matchup. So, I mean, if you look up just at matchups to have, Giannis against Joel Embiid. That's always a fun matchup anyway. In fact, last night while I was watching a couple of games, there's a commercial that they're both on, which is kind of interesting. So they're kind of previewing that matchup for tonight. I'm looking forward to the game. I hope I can get, I think it's on ESPN. I hope I get to watch it because I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, this one will be tonight on ESPN. I see that it is, TNT, excuse me, which we should have on Fubo.
I don't think we do.
I might have to look at this. You might have to search. You know why? We'll search. Maybe Bones is like how the TNT like actual logo on the channel looks. It might be a television show as opposed to looking like a sports show.
Could
so you
be.
might have to actually go search that out. So the Bucks are 4-point dogs. I just looked it up here on ESPN. The Bucks are 4-point dogs.
Yeah.
The total on this game's 223.5. I do think that this game, looking at what Philadelphia put up in the first one, 117. If you didn't want to make a play tonight on the Bucks plus the 4 points, if you didn't want to sprinkle in the money line, which right now, if you can get the Bucks on the money line and you think that they will win, it's plus 152. So that's actually really good juice if you can get it. And some places don't offer money lines on each of these games. Some places do, depending on what app you're using, right? Because we're here in a non-legal gaming state, so you have to go to some place like .ag. But if you want to make a play on this one and you don't want to bet against the Bucks, I would probably look at that total and say over. I would go over 223.
I'm going to be the contrarian. I'm going to say, and this isn't because I'm against the Bucks. I'm just saying because of injuries, no Middleton, no Connaughton. I'm going to say I would end up taking the 76ers coming off a loss. They're at home and the under. I'm going to take the Sixers in the under. I'm going to put my Johnny Utah hat on. That's what I'm calling. We'll see what happens.
All right. Jason P1 Breacher says 76ers going to do 76ers shit and Joel Embiid will get hurt. Book it. Book it.
He's probably right, actually. You know what? You might be right. I may be wrong, which is looks more than once.
Hey, Jim Tim, he says Amish listeners give a shout. That's pretty funny, Jim. And if they give a shout, listen, I would be excited because then I would say, wow, we've really crossed over. There's a market and an audience. If you can get into a home without electricity or most modern functions, if you can make your way into that home, then there is no stopping this program. The Sports Carnival will continue to take off into the Starlink stratosphere. I mean, it'll be up there with Elon Musk no time.
I would say that's Ron Jeremy penetration. That's the kind of penetration you're getting on that.
Hey, speaking of Jeremy, he told me a really funny story about husbandry on the Amish residences, and one of his friends was co-opted to help dilute the blood, the gene pool.
What?
That's a thing. They pay for that.
Is that the cuckold thing that I don't understand?
I don't know who would be the cuckold in that one because there's I think the dad watches.
Wow. Yeah, this is
it's interesting stuff, man. I didn't know anything about this shit until I moved out
here.
They
just had funny beards and churned butter. Apparently there's a lot more to it than I understand. And I thought that was all in Pennsylvania. I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know.
I'm telling you what, there is an enormous population. It's growing, I think. It's growing. They don't
Something's growing.
Go to war or anything. It's an amazing out. It's like, wait, can you just refer to me on my taxes as Amish? Because I would love that, right? Can you just here's what I will have my pronoun be when it comes to the IRS, Amish, because that way you can't take anything from me. We've made this agreement a long time ago, and everybody seems fine with it.
Do you think the Amish are pulling for the Bucks tonight? Or are they more 76er fans because of the whole Philadelphia thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if they understand that kind of handball. I'm not sure that they play or not. I'm not sure. I don't know if they make sneakers. I know that they do. They do make boots, but I'm not sure about sneakers.
I would like to check out those Amish boots. I bet those are pretty solid.
And actually, Special K checked, and he's like, no, it was Amish listeners give a shit, not give a shout. Thank you. Jim, you the man. You the man.
This is pretty good right here. Amish response incoming via snail mail.
Yeah.
Eric Johnson. Ejo, nice work, buddy.
Yeah, I saw EJ yesterday. He's a hell of a cool dude. So Turtle Stack Brewery, by the way, on 2nd Street in La Crosse, Chad, they did the first beer for breakfast with us. You remember you put together that sweet beer for breakfast piece? Yeah, they were our first beer for breakfast piece. All right, we're going to probably be wrapping up here. Thanks so much to everybody for joining the program this morning. Morning Wood popping up, and he says Weird Al Amish Paradise. Okay, I'll check that one out. Morning Wood. I'll check that one out.
I remember that.
Don't forget to take this morning's Twitter poll question at the Sports Carney. Tell me what you think it'll mean if the Packers lose to the Commanders. Chad, tomorrow on the program, we'll talk about that Bucks versus Sixers game and get ourselves ready for another exciting slate of college and NFL football, buddy.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Have a great day, guys. See ya.